What's up, Vol Nation? We got a big game this weekend, Bob. We've looked forward to this Oklahoma game for quite some time, and I'm sure our Oklahoma brethren have been looking at it even longer because they're coming to the SEC, got to the big leagues finally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the Heupel thing, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
one's favorite son coming home on the other side of the
Huge
field.
Huge game.
So it's going to, the environment for this game from Oklahoma standpoint should be through the roof.
Oh, it should be. I didn't realize until somebody else mentioned it to him. They don't have a lot of big games there. I mean, and a lot of it has to do with, I don't think their conference is as good as SEC was, and plus the Texas game is on a neutral site thing, so they don't have a lot of huge games.
Yeah, so this will be a treat for the fans.
Oh, yeah.
I know we saw a stat with which we mentioned in our preview, how they had more conference championships in the last 25 years than they did home losses, and a lot of that it goes to what you're talking about.
Best rate in the country, winning percentage, I think the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, maybe a little longer.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So this is a treat for them. They get and it's a night game, something they don't get a lot of, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So
Yeah, they play a lot of 12 o'clock early games, so I don't know if that affect anything or not, but
well, I bet it affect the crowd when it comes to
yeah, right, yeah,
yeah,
that's true. That's true.
they should be gassed up.
Hopefully, they will be drinking a lot after the game as well, thinking about how in the world we gonna compete in the SEC. We just got drugged.
Hey, any Tennessee fans going out there, take a little extra moonshine with you, share it with your
with the
Oklahoma people beforehand,
share it with the
or
players
afterwards,
before
whatever.
game.
Yeah, share it with the players.
Yeah, whatever advantage we can take. I mean, we're kind of the throw the dirt and eyes kind of guys. We're I don't, however
All
we
fire and love and war.
That's right. Uh, uh, Injury wise, Tim, I think that's a big aspect of this game.
Well,
It has been an aspect of this season
for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it has been. For such a highly anticipated season, they've been bit by the injury bug so bad.
At certain positions, what's really bad is wide receiver and offensive line.
Decimated.
Yeah.
Decimated. Their offensive line, which everybody talked about coming into this season, because they had to replace everybody, they've not had any continuity through fall practice. Constantly, different people were hurt, come back, and then they got people hurt during the season. It's been horrible. And then they thought they had one of the best wide receiver groups in the conference.
Yeah.
And to be honest about it, first three games, they've pretty much had Deion Burks.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
Yeah. It looks like they do get Nick Anderson back this week. He's the 6'4" speedster, deep threat. I think he had like 10 touchdowns last year, led on touchdowns.
Yeah, averaged about 23 yards a pop.
Yeah.
Big time getting him back.
Yeah. And the Anthony kid, too, looks like he's back probably. That's another big get for them. Looks like they've been holding some people back, trying to get them to this game. On the offensive line side, looks like they'll get the Everett player back. He's probably, I should know this, but I'm not sure if he's going to play center or guard for him. I think he's originally played guard previously.
Yeah, he come from Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, guard over there. I believe I read where they brought him in to be a center, and then he got hurt, and I think that's when they went out and got Hickman in the spring portal.
Yeah. Which, speaking of Hickman,
he's hurt.
He's hurt, but now he's questionable for this game. He's had a high ankle sprain, so we'll see if he plays.
I think they'll try to get him to go, but with a high ankle sprain, look, and I know with today's medicine, he's getting treatment probably 24/7, probably in his sleep. Somebody's in there putting ice on him or heating, whatever. But for a large man in the trenches with a high ankle sprain 2 weeks later, you're crouching down in 3-point stance.
That's right.
And getting hit by 320 pounders.
Yeah,
that's a lot to ask.
Hopefully Bates plays. He's been their center here lately, and honestly, he's been eaten alive by far inferior defensive linemen of what he's going to face this week.
it's been rough on him. He's a
Yeah.
young kid who, in a perfect world, would still be sitting over on the bench learning from batting ball.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but he's been thrown in the fire, and he's got a few burns to prove it.
One thing I find interesting, Tim, is they've really went up tempo, especially the last two games. I really wonder. That's kind of, to me, I mean, I don't know if it's a strategy thing they've planned for this. I know they've done it in the past with Levy, but last year, but kind of I thought they was going to go away from it. But man, it can make things really interesting one way or the other. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it might be work against them with us because we have more depth
Yeah.
right now than what they have.
Most teams, it's a bonus, I think.
Yeah, you can wear the other team down because they can't get off the field, can't get out of their base packages. But honestly, uh, you keep our four defensive linemen out there for a whole series, fine. The next series, we're going to have four different defensive linemen out there, and you're not really going to even tell the difference. And we'll do it the series after that, too. You know, we'll just keep rotating.
And one issue, too, with doing that is they've had 41% of their series have been 3-and-outs.
That's a big number.
That's, 122nd in the country. That is not something you want to do if you're going up tempo. As we've seen before, we have gotten in trouble big time before when we're going 3-and-out. You can get in a blowout fast.
Well, it'll gas your defense.
Yeah.
Um,
It'll gas some of your offensive guys, I've noticed. I mean, I was looking at that Waywood, I think that's his name. Maybe
way wrong.
way wrong, way off.
Way wrong. Um,
But yeah, but he looked gassed in the fourth quarter. And speaking of linemen, one more lineman I was going to mention is at Michael Parkin. Supposedly has been their best offensive lineman at this point. Playing some left tackle, playing some right. I have no idea where he's going to be at this game because it seems like they've done a lot of musical chairs, kind of that stuff.
it's who's injured today, where we have to move it.
Exactly.
He has some versatility, so that's a plus.
He has been their most consistent as far as assignments. He's steady. But I thought it's funny. You hear the words best offensive lineman and unathletic in the same words.
And this from their own people
Yes, they're
describing him. Unathletic, which, look, I'd rather have an unathletic guy that is blocking somebody or attempting to block somebody
Yeah.
than a very athletic guy that's 5 foot away from the person he's supposed to be blocking.
Yeah.
That said, though, if you're an athletic guy like a James Pierce or Josh Joseph or, Tyree West, you kind of enjoy hearing the word unathletic about a tackle across from you.
Exactly. Our guys could do some eating there. One thing that I think they've had issues with, Tim, is like mistakes, and I know it has a lot to do with freshman quarterback. I know it has a lot to do with all the injuries, but still seemed like even last game they were still making game one type mistakes.
Well, and like you said, Bob, I mean, the wide receivers are basically people that are having to throw out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're kids that should be sitting on the bench, still learning from the guys, the upperclassmen.
Sure.
And they're not. They're actually being thrown out there, and even then, they're not getting to be thrown out there in the same rotation that it was the game before or the half before. It's been a mash unit, and it has affected everything on that offense.
There was a stat I was just seeing today I thought was really interesting. I think it was 63rd in the country in the pressure rate allowed.
Which is middle of the road.
Middle of the road, not horrible. But the big issue with that is they're 131st at 8.75 yards completion. And that's when you're throwing short and you're still having pressure problems.
Yeah, what would the pressure problem? Yeah, what's your true pressure rate if you was running
a normal
route trees?
Yeah. And honestly, Tim, if I'm trying to beat Tennessee, I want to attack our safeties. Can you attack our safeties when you can't throw a deep pass?
If you look, when they're thrown to Burks, a lot of it are little super short routes.
Yeah.
Much like NC State did with Concepcion, trying to hit 4-yard routes and hoping he takes it longer. And you look at his yards in his receptions, everything's been thrown short. So
Yeah,
there's been, and then of course their next highest receiver is a tight end, and then
catches. Yeah.
yeah, and then you've got another wide receiver at 6, but I think the one after that might be either another tight end or a running back.
Yeah.
Uh, Getting Nick Anderson back may affect those numbers some, but it's going to take another half second or so. And you might not have it.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Um, the one thing that they need to be, the slow down pressure, is have a good running game, and that's been an issue.
Well, when your quarterback's your leading rusher, even in an athletic quarterback,
That's a problem.
3 games into the season, it's a problem.
Yeah. Uh, the guy that's the actual running back that's leading them probably is Barnes. He's averaging, I think, 4.1 yards a carry. Very good at pass protection, from what I understand. But the thing is with him, he's a pretty good sized guy. Runs with some physicality. Problem is, from their guys, they say he's not very good at making people miss. Um, so that to me, that's a little bit of an issue there.
He's the safe guy.
Yeah, he's a safe guy.
Gavin Sawchuk,
Yeah,
looks how you pronounce it, was the starter coming into the season. He has a little bit more dash and flash to his game. Quite honestly, 3 games into the season, he's been a disaster.
Yeah.
Probably because he's getting flashed and gashed because he's not getting blocking.
Now they do have another guy, Tatum, true freshman, big time guy,
big time recruit.
He's averaging a good amount of yards per carry. I forget what it is right off the top of my head.
Just a little under 7.
Yeah, like 6.8, I think.
But it's been very limited
Yeah.
carries, and he had one long run that kind of have blown that out.
And can you put him in there when you know you're going to get pressured?
I'm sure that's why he's not playing as much.
That's true.
He may be the most natural runner of that they have on their team. I'd almost guarantee he is. But as every Tennessee fan remembers with Jamal Lewis,
Yeah.
If you can't pass protect or you're going to make mistakes like Dylan Sampson did, but Hooker blew up a couple of years ago in the LSU game. You can't, your offensive line's that bad right now. That tore up physically with injuries and stuff. You can see why they don't want to get Arnold killed.
Yeah, and Tennessee's 8th in pressure rate without blitzing, which is, pretty good.
Pretty good number.
Yeah, it's a pretty good number. So, well, let's flip it over, Tim, a little bit. Let's look at, Oklahoma's defense. And I'll just go ahead and say, I've heard some people say, well, they're not that good. I think they're a really good defense.
Yeah, I've heard everything from, they're not as good as what people make out to be to, hey, they're an elite group.
Mm-hmm.
I think the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Right.
This is a group that has a lot of 4-stars out there. Think NC State with much better athletes.
That Stutzman, he's a big time linebacker, and
he's fun to watch. Although I hope he's not this weekend.
Right. I mean, they're pretty deep at linebacker. They're deep in the secondary.
Yeah, and they're playing 9 guys on defensive line right now.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
No, it's not bad.
They got a freshman that they love, but last game you had R. Mason Smith had 3 sacks there, and then toward the end of the ball game, just turned that ball game, shut it down.
Yeah. John Terry.
Yeah, we all remember him. He's playing some of his best ball of his career right now.
Mm-hmm.
They got the big transfer in, Dominic Williams.
I think that's correct. I think that's correct.
And there's another one off the top of my head. I can't think of them right now. But, I mean, they've got some talent.
Yeah.
So this is by far the most talented defense we'll be going up against. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
And look, Venables is not going to be a poorly coached defense on the field.
No, I agree. I mean, they think the Oklahoma experts, and I don't throw it around lightly, but there's some of the guys that you really knows what they're talking about. They seem to think that they match up good against our offensive line as far as stopping the run goes. So we'll see. I mean, they do bring some exotic stuff out as far as blitzes go. It's kind of a complicated defense. And they do a lot of exotic stuff in the back end where they will show one thing and at snap they're pulling out, they're switching it up.
Oh yeah.
Easily confusing for a young quarterback.
And I remember seeing one play this year where they had, I think it's put linebacker down at defensive tackle, but the moment the ball was snapped, he spins and did a flat sprint down the field covering the slot guy. And of course, once he did that, we're all, they're rotating everyone else over.
Yeah.
So confusing a young quarterback is going to be high on the list of things that Venable does to Nico.
Yeah.
It's really, you would think that he would want to stop the run, try to put the pressure on Nico, confuse him, make Nico beat you. Um, I think we can do that though.
Yeah. And I've seen some vulnerability by their secondary people of letting some people get by. Not been burned a whole lot because I don't think a lot of people had that capability to burn them, but we are.
But we do. I agree, Bob. Another thing too, he is exotic on defenses, but I'm sure the Oklahoma people know when you do some wide sets as much as particularly Heupel does.
Yeah.
Part of that is so you can't do some of the exotic stuff.
Some of that stuff.
Because look, if you put a guy, linebacker, a defensive tackle, it's one thing to do it here, but can you do it when that receiver's 5 yards farther out and you've got 5 more yards to try to get over there too? It's too late.
Yeah.
So it limits you to some of what you can do. But that said, he is going to try to confuse Nico.
Yeah. Well, other than what we've mentioned so far, which I've already mentioned some of this stuff, what do you think some keys to the game, Tim?
Well, I mean, to start with, I would say turnovers. They're 8th in the country, I believe, in creating turnovers or turnover
Created rate.
Okay, creative.
Yeah,
I know they have an 8 turnover advantage right now.
And now I think most of them happened in the first game.
Yes,
against Temple, but still they still created them. So that'll be huge. I think you got this battle between 2 freshman quarterbacks. Which one plays better? Which one makes the fewest mistakes? Which one? Because I just have a feeling there's going to be 2 or 3 interceptions in this game. Hopefully by the Oklahoma quarterback and not by our quarterback. But I could see
some of both.
Yeah.
Jackson Arnold, he has the unfortunate thing of not having the pieces around him that it looks like Nico does.
Yeah.
He hasn't had the receivers, whereas Nico's had a half a dozen or more.
Right.
He hasn't had the same offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
For a young quarterback, that's a lot on you. I saw where he was, I want to say his QBR rating was about 50% higher when he's not blitzed.
Not
because
blitzed or not under pressure.
Or not under pressure. Yeah. So
expect it to be bad this game.
Yeah. But when the pressure comes, I mean, he's not got a lot of options.
Well, it's like what we were saying before. That's why I think it's critical for us to shut down their running game so we can put them into, the 3rd and longs, second and 10, and 3rd and 8, those type of situations, and vice versa. They want to do the same to us. We want to be on time as far as getting our first downs go, and
then we'll crank up our tempo.
Yeah.
Biggest thing I think you see from Jackson that impresses you is that he is their leading rusher, and for a reason. He can move.
He can move, yeah. And I don't know if we'll try to do a spy on him or what, but we don't seem to change our defensive philosophy a whole lot for quarterbacks like that.
Unfortunately, we've seen some results that didn't look very good.
Should have changed our defensive philosophy for the quarterback. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. We can't let him, getting 100 yards plus rushing against us. If we can limit him to, 20 yards, whatever.
Keep him from not extending drives.
Yeah.
If he picks up 7 yards on 3rd and 9, so be it.
It goes back to what we've said before and what you would hear a lot of people talk about. What's the biggest mismatch in this game to me is that our defensive line. against their offensive line. So that should create a lot of problems with them running the ball, with him having time. I mean, he's at a disadvantage. So whichever quarterback plays better, I think is a huge factor in the running game.
Well, that right there is going to go a long way in it. You know, I know from an Oklahoma point of view, you're wanting to test the Tennessee secondary.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you can't do it. You know, I don't know if you can do it consistently though,
Right.
because of the other.
Well, I think if you're going to do it, you need to be able to respect the first down run. They may need to do it on first downs.
Well, they'll have to try to get her surprise us because, you know, that I mean, I don't want to say I feel bad for another team, but it seemed like a few years ago, I can remember one of Butch's teams that struggled with so many injuries, and it just make you want to hang your head after a while.
That's right.
It's like, what's going on over there? You know, and that said, that's really why you're probably seeing the line move as much because the injuries have really hurt that Oklahoma offense.
It has. You know, and Tim, I think you brought this up earlier to me before we start shooting here. It just feels like Tennessee just needs to play our game, but Oklahoma, they need several things to happen for them to win this ball game. You know,
Bob, I don't want to mention Butch too many times in one thing because I'm afraid it's kind of like, you know, Butch juice, Butch juice, Butch juice, and he'll pop back up somewhere.
Yeah.
But how many times do we go in the big games the last 10, 15 years and we're going, well, you know what? If this will happen and this will happen and this will happen, we can take them.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like right now it's a little bit on the other foot.
Right.
Now we're like, hey, we come in, play our C game, probably going to be okay. We play a big game, we're going to win.
Right.
That's the way I think that most fans feel right now.
Yeah.
Whereas the Oklahoma fans, for the most part, I believe are kind of in the situation we had been in 10, 15 years ago of like, well, we need this to happen, this happen, this happen, this happen. So it seems like we have more avenues to a victory than they do.
Yeah.
But we also know that sometimes those avenues open up.
Absolutely, yeah. Things crazy happens, especially on the road.
It's a crazy thing about something about just playing the game sometimes. If we didn't have to do that, we'd have a lot more wins sometimes.
Prediction time, Tim. What you thinking score-wise?
A little wider than I would have put a couple of weeks ago. Definitely wider than I would have put a couple months ago. Before we saw all the situations going on with their offense. Honestly, and I might be wrong, I don't see them getting more than about 17 points on us. Maybe not that.
Right.
I'm actually probably going to go good guys 38, Oklahoma 13.
All right, I'm going to go, and I had somebody ask me this just last night, and I gave something like 38 17 or something like that. I think we'll dial it back just a hair. And I could definitely see, you know, Oklahoma beat us. There's definitely that scenario.
There's an avenue there.
Yeah, I mean,
a home game crowd. I mean,
definitely. But I think they got a really good defense. I think you're going to have a lot of turnovers or some turnovers, but I don't know if the other team can capitalize on them. Just some mistakes. You know, Nico's first game of the year. I'm going to say 31-17. 31-17 Tennessee.
Yeah. You know, one other thing to consider too, which we don't always jump into, and that's special teams. You know, McCoy's really done a great job punt returns for us.
Yeah.
Their punt returner had a 24-yard punt return last week.
Yeah.
Bowen.
I
believe it was the game before that. Well, he was an adventure back there catching the ball on about 3 punts and a onside kick after a safety.
Yeah.
So he was. I don't know if I could have put him back out there again. I'll be honest about it.
Right.
He's got some talent. I'm sure that's why he's out there. But he may hold your breath both sides.
Yeah.
So we might win a position. You know, the hidden yardage in the game.
It'd be good to have something like that. Special teams always can be a huge factor in these games.
Certainly can.
With that being said, though, Tim, I'm gonna go with the Go Vols on there.
I think it's time.
All right.
Go Vols.
All right.